family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you come in, beloved, be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. We ask that you do that so that it's able to generate other notifications so other folks will know that we're here. How many of you all know that those of us that are Black, independent, grassroots, and I'm going to add another word, alternative media, how many of you all know that sometimes the mainstream legacy media, they have the advantage in so many areas, not only centuries and the being in the media stratosphere, but they put billions of dollars behind what they do. So we have to be intentional in order to get our message out. It's important because those who have access to the minds of the masses can control the world. So thank you so much for sharing and engaging. Family. Now, we know that we have a new president-elect of the United States. Yes, Donald Trump. This will be his second term. Yes, we know that it was a very tumultuous campaign on both sides. And now it is what it is. Well, I want to let you know something that took place not too long ago. I'm reading from an article here from the Telegraph. And the Telegraph even covered this. This is even an international piece. Of course, there are many outlets that discuss this, but the headline here is Trump's call for, quote, one real nasty day compared to the purge. These aren't my words. This is not me embellishing anything. You understand. What am I talking about? The subtext here says suggestion that police should be extraordinarily rough for 1 hour to end crime was clearly made in jest, says campaign. That was what Donald Trump's folks said after he was called out for making such, strong statements that reminded folks about the purge. Now, that was a headline that I wanted you to see from the Telegram, right? Well, in another piece, this is from MSNBC, and you all know we always give MSNBC the everlasting word because of their left-leaning and unfair coverage, but I'm going to still give you, bits and pieces from what they said. Their headline says, Trump's call for police to have a purge-like day is an authoritarian strategy. Of course, this was just done about a month or so ago. It reads that in the 2013 dystopian thriller, The Purge, America observes a tradition wherein once a year for a designated 12-hour period, all crime is permissible up to and including murder. During the purge, society is rocked by spectacular violence, which is said to have a cathartic effect. Do y'all hear that? How many of y'all know those of us that are civilized won't say such things are cathartic? But I digress. Let me keep going. It dramatically reduces crime and unemployment. The purge provides audiences with a warning about the horrifying consequences of selective observation of morals and a world ruled by a might makes right ethos. But at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania on Sunday, former President Donald Trump effectively floated the idea as a good thing, except in his spinoff version, the twist is that it's only the cops who get to do what they want. Now, if you're missing, if what I say don't make sense, what I'm trying to tell you is that this article is telling you that the purge is from a movie from 2013, where they specifically call for a few hours block of time where the police unleashes. In the United States, foundational Black Americans over the past years since that movie have referred to the actions of certain law enforcement agencies who continue to take us out on camera. So while we're talking about the wars that's happening in the Middle East and on the continent, when we're talking about the undoing of even South American, Asian, and other countries, please understand when those of us who are directly here in the United States, we're still at war domestically. No international Marshall Plan was done for us. Nobody came to our rescue to formally and officially end it. We refer to this movie, and Donald Trump is very clear based on his statements that he understands the movie. Because in his response, instead of it being a 12-hour block, Donald Trump, as the headline, and that's his piece, and said specifically calls for 1 hour where the police unleashes. Y'all know he didn't just come up with that from the top of his head. That is sending out indicators to his base. Now, you all know I don't just beat up on Trump and let the Democrats slide. And I don't just beat up on the Democrats and let Trump slide. I'm calling it right down the middle, and I'm a prophetic voice, which means that since I was a little girl, messengers came to me. Whether you believe this or not, whether you think this is too woo-woo or not, it doesn't matter what you think. I'm telling you why I stick to what my spiritual court tells me, because I've been under a certain command since I was a young girl in Mississippi. And the message came to my mother and grandmother sitting at our kitchen table at the same time about my job to speak. So when I'm talking about Trump, I'm doing this as a warning sign. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's his intention to do it, but he understands how to gin up his base from the ground up so that they will serve as a force to not only put him in office, but to keep him in office and to serve as a momentum so that he can execute his agenda. But unfortunately, a lot of his agenda that he wants to execute can have a very diabolical effect on Black Americans. So I'm sending the warning, and I'm reminding you that what he said is not just on the movie screen. Somebody say, prove it, Vicki. On this very channel, a few years ago, I discussed law enforcement that specifically revealed a plot to where they were discussing with other police officers, and you'll hear the police officers in this clip I'm getting ready to show you, where he was saying other officers would be willing to do the same. We have also, you're going to hear a confession from an inside law enforcement auditor who caught the police officers making this plot that it would have involved many others. And you will hear her say something very jarring. When asked by the reporter, I'm setting this up before we hit play, whether or not she found this unusual for her to just randomly go through these videos to check on the officers, this body cam footage that they didn't know was on. I got to hit the gavel on that. Y'all know the Vicki Dillard show holds court. I've been doing it for years. She said it was not unusual. She said that his language was more extreme, but this is not unusual at all. I want you to watch this clip from just a few years ago, where I was right here on this network discussing the actual plot from the police. Now, this is more widespread, but we're just giving you a little bit of a hint to let you all know that this is real, and they actually are literally using the attributes and language of the purge, specifically for Black Americans. This was in the wake of uprisings once we found out that our brother George Floyd and some of the others were taken out by race soldiers. Watch this clip.
Generations, because, and then you know what? The good ones can go live in their little communities and they can do what they want to do. Just stay out of my way.
That's former Wilmington police officer Kevin Piner talking with another former officer, Jesse Moore. The conversation was recorded on a police cruiser camera, which was accidentally activated.
But if we do not get a handle on this, we are not going to have a country for our kids to be raised in.
In the days before, police and protesters clashed in Wilmington following national calls to end police brutality after the murder of George Floyd, a Black man in Minneapolis.
You told me tonight, you said, all right, tomorrow's a purge day, get as many as you want. Dude, I go down there. I go down there and slaughter them motherfuckers.
The recordings were not only created by chance, but also discovered by chance when a supervisor conducting random audits of video footage decided to take a listen.
So I just sat down as a supervisor. We're supposed to review a video from each person every month, and I just sat down that day saying, I'm going to try to knock a few out today, and that's what I was doing.
That's the supervisor who discovered the videos talking to Wilmington Police Department's internal affairs after she reported what she found. The court evidence exclusively obtained by WECT included not only the racist recordings, but 4 internal affairs investigations as well, including the 3 officers captured in the recordings. Both Jesse Moore and Kevin Piner admit that these are their voices in the recordings, and both say that the conversations were them venting, something Internal Affairs wanted to know a little bit more about.
You just used the term and then you follow that up with having to take it to a Negro magistrate. And so what's going on with that? Is that just how you vent?
So yeah, I shot my mouth off, shouldn't have done that. That's not who I am. I'm not no racist.
Keisha James, an attorney with the National Police Accountability Project, says regardless of stress on the job, this was more problematic than just venting.
It's really hard to believe that these officers were just venting, especially when you have them calling for civil war and you have them using racial slurs.
There's no doubt law enforcement is a stressful job, and in recent years, there has been a strain between the community and police. Both Piner and Moore told Internal Affairs that the tension at the time was reaching a boiling point.
The whole thing that started this whole conversation, man, is just that I'm just at a breaking point, you know.
For many, the hate-filled language from the now former Wilmington Police Department officers came as a shock. But for Piner's supervisor, who found the recordings, it wasn't.
So did what you hear on the video surprise you?
No.
The supervisor explains how she overheard similar, albeit less inflammatory conversations during lineup in the prior days. On the larger level, James says it's not the fact that the officers said these things that surprises her.
It's also rare for those officers to kind of remain terminated instead of being reinstated either at that department or another department.
All right, family, did you all see that video footage there? Did you all see that footage there? And if you missed some of it, family, just rewind the video back there so that you're able to see the full context of that few-minute long video. It's very insightful. Within that video, you found the Wilmington police plotting the fact of Black folks in America that he literally wanted to take out. And he was saying that he would solicit other officers to assist in unaliving Black Americans. And they were specifically upset because of our people protesting the George Floyd and other race soldiers taking out our people. That's the context of that. And the fact that he talked about others that were willing to come along. Also in that, the news clip showed where they, again, as I mentioned earlier, spoke to the auditor within the law enforcement agency, the ones that's responsible for overseeing and randomly auditing videos of their officers. And she said it's not unusual that they have this kind of talk, which means that this is a widespread cancer. What some of you all don't understand is that not only, like in many other countries and nations and governmental systems, there is a national or federal police, intelligence agency, and other offshoots. There are state agencies, police, and offshoots. There are local state police and offshoots, yes? But each of these offshoots work together. They coordinate. And the United States, from the federal level, also has databases and means of communication where the agenda for police is given from the head down. So I need you all to understand that this is a widespread thing and that law enforcement from the incipiency of America's forming has always been the law enforcement arm of white supremacy. That's where you get your paddy wagons from. In the United States, everybody was basically for their own, or they formed little community security groups. Many people back in the day had land, and so they were already armed in this kind of stuff. But when it came down to catching those of our people that were trying to get free or that escaped, that's when they officially formed these race groups. Please understand that not only that, but also in the U.S. military, all of these different organizations, whether they're supposed to be operating in terms of the security interests of the United States, domestically or abroad, have all been proven in no limit of time to work against us, including the FBI, including the CIA. Now, I know you're hearing a whole lot of white folks now and so-called white, woke, enlightened, alternative media people that are complaining about how the three-letter agencies were used against Donald Trump. But where were these very folks when since their beginning have been targeting us? No disrespect to RFK wanting to find out who took out his dad. We need to find that out. But before we find that out, I want to know what happened to our people. I want all the records to come out of the people that took us out. You can get in the back of the line. Where were these allies at when black folks from the beginning were calling them out? A lot of the lobbyist organizations that both the Republican and Democrats bow down to and take money from, like the ADL, like AIPAC, they were coming after us. The ADL has a multi-generational history of being a spy agency against civil rights organizations. Yes, they went after other groups, but we were one of their primary target. This is the consistency of every law enforcement agency, every governmental agency. Has always been the target of foundational Black Americans. And even when certain agencies like the CIA were only supposed to be used internationally against enemies of the U.S., we found out, for example, it was some of our African brothers and sisters that blew the whistle to give Malcolm X the heads up that his own government was trying to take him out. How many of you all knew it was some of our international brothers and sisters in one instance that gave him the heads up that the government of the United States was trying to poison him, and it'll make America look good if it was done across the waters? How many of you all know that they told us that it was a lone gunman that took out our brother Dr. King, but we found out later that it was a U.S. government and multiple people that they solicited to do it? And that in recent history, Dr. King's family, family sued the U.S. government in court, and the jury came to the conclusion, deliberated, that it was a government that was behind it, and the Martin family won a settlement. How many of y'all heard about that in mainstream media? You didn't. You saw little traces, but nobody stayed on it back to back to back to back. They did that on purpose. So when we're not just knuckleheads, we're not just conspiracy theorists here. So Donald Trump should be warned and be careful. He knows what he's doing by specifically talking about their time frame, because he's referencing that movie. And he's signaling to his unhinged supporters on the ground. The big belly, beer guzzling, trailer park brand of white supremacists. How many of y'all know that there's a hierarchy to white supremacy? He's signaling to them so that they can stay on code, so that they can continue to support him while he does other stuff. And let me say this before I go. If you think for 1 second that the Democrats won't sign off on it, you're out of your mind. Because it was the Democrats that were successfully able to push forward the 94 crime bill. And they got away with it because they did it as Democrats. And when the way Bill Clinton won, because the Republicans before him was winning in so many governmental states and federally, he was trying to win back the White House. One of the things, the strategy of the Democrat Party was to show that they were going to be more pro-police, more pro-crackdown on Black folks than the Republicans. Do you all understand that's how he won it over? And that's why we keep talking about and indicting in the social courts of Black America, Joe Biden, because he was one of the major masterminds behind it, and he solicited Republicans to get on board and got that support. And out of Joe Biden's own mouth, he eulogized a former Ku Klux Klan member who was a Senator Byrd, and said that was his mentor. He had many more. Not the Republicans, the Democrats. I'm bringing that up to say that the Democrats are the ones that have been imposing policies that were anti-Black and pushing other groups before us. And the Democrats are the ones that gave us a big backlash for calling them out on prioritizing immigrants over us and a whole bunch of other policies. So they're willing to retaliate against us is what I'm trying to tell you. So if you think for 1 second that this is just going to be the Republicans, the Democrats are going to sit back and let it happen so that they can induce more pain for Black folks and say, see, we told you not to stay home. We told you not to vote for Trump. This is what you get for not going with us. And I want to remind you that it was them working with them all along. Donald Trump should be careful. Foundation of Black Americans, we cannot let up. I don't care who's coming into office. We're not going to sit here and say for sure what Donald Trump will or won't do, but we letting him know you better watch out. And we letting everybody know that we're going to stay on our watch and we're not going to have our favorite white supremacists. My name is Vicki Dillard, beloved. I'm doing an absolutely free webinar this Sunday, December 22nd. Go to my website at VickiPlanet.com. That's VICKI Planet.com, so that you can get your free seat for Sunday, where I'm going to be breaking down the hidden hand behind the fall of Syria and its connection to the original Black Vatican. Have you heard that before? I'm going to break it down. I'm going to be talking about specific entities and individuals, geopolitical forces, metaphysical forces that I can't talk about online. Hopefully we'll be able to pin that link in the comments after this broadcast. Be sure to share the broadcast, beloved. I can't wait to see you again.